There is no reward in life without risk. This morning, having that cup of coffee, I was on X, seeing what was going on in the world, and happened to come across an excerpt from, I believe, the Lex Fridman podcast. And one of my favorite authors, Walter Isaacson, was speaking. And I'm going to read you a piece of the quote here, because I think it's nothing short of incredible. He says, "I've had a gentle, sweet career, and I've got to cover really interesting people." Side note, that's what he does. He writes a lot of really good biographies. He did Elon Musk's biography, Steve Jobs' biography, just really, really good author. Back to the quote. He says, "But I've never shot off a rocket that might someday get to Mars. I've never moved us into the era of electric vehicles. I've never stayed up all night on the factory floor. I don't have quite those, either the drives or the addiction to risk." He then goes on. "I mean, Elon's addicted to risk. He's addicted to adventure. Me, if I see something that's risky, I spend some time calculating. Okay, upside, downside here. But," and here's the best part of the quote, "that's another reason that people like Elon Musk get stuff done and people like me write about the Elon Musks." When I saw that, I couldn't help but pause, because here's someone I admire greatly. I don't think there's anyone in the world that takes such complex characters and people and tells their story in such an incredible way. He's built an entire career doing this, and he's reflecting on the difference between documenting life and daring to create it, between writing about the rockets and building them. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is a personal opinion. Sure, he's not sending rockets to Mars. But the courage to start writing and to put yourself out there like that is not nothing. So it's not 0 and 100 here, but I think you get the point. There are people that build, that put all of themselves on the line, and then there are people who view that, who analyze that, and give their opinions on that. And they're very different things. You know, that quote brought me back to a truth I've wrestled with my whole life. It's essentially the difference between safety and risk, between holding on to what you know and betting on what you could be. See, safety is comfortable. It's logical. It lets you sleep at night. It is the warm blanket in the middle of the storm, and for a long time, that was me. It might be you now. Maybe it was you in the past. Right? I thought if I just stayed calculated, if I minimized risk, then success would be inevitable. But here's what I've learned. Avoiding risk does not guarantee safety, but it does guarantee something. You know what that is? Stagnation. It guarantees your story never makes it past the opening chapter. And what that quote emphasized is that at the core of every great story, there must be risk. There's a timeless anecdote that, when I searched for it, is associated with Cortez. I'm not sure how true that is, but regardless, right? The idea in and of itself is powerful. As the story goes, in 1519, he stood at the shores of the New World with, his hundreds of men staring at a vast unknown, and his order was famously, "Burn the ships." Why? Because that act makes retreat no longer an option. That means the only way forward is through. Because when you eliminate the safety net, you find out what you're truly capable of. You don't accidentally put rockets on Mars. You go all in. That becomes your life. Similarly, Cortez in this story is eliminating all off-ramps. It highlights the principle progress requires risk, the willingness to step into an unknown. Cortez understood something that Elon Musk understands. Assuming that's actually Cortez's quote, of course. But the idea is if you want to reshape the world, you have to be willing to put something on the line. Now, I've had those micro moments in my life. I'm sure you have as well. Moments standing at a crossroads where we have to decide, do we stay comfortable or do we put ourselves out there? And every season of life has different variations of this. Right now, for me, it's particular business ventures that contain risk and some fitness changes, some lifestyle changes. Every one of those decisions in and of themselves at the starting block is terrifying. I don't know how it's gonna play out. I don't know if I'm gonna fall flat on my face. But historically, those terrifying decisions are what made me. The risks I took became the bridges to the life I live now. And right now is no exception. It is a bridge to the future, to an evolved self, a better, improved reality. I think back and wonder, imagine if I didn't go, if I didn't jump. And that's the thing we often forget. There's a cost to not taking risks too. The cost of regret, the cost of what if, the cost of living life from the sidelines while others are in the arena. It's not just about what we risk losing if we leap. It's about what we risk never experiencing if we don't. Life is a game of trade-offs. You can minimize risk and be a spectator, or embrace it and step into unlimited opportunity. Risk is the doorway to transformation. It's the teacher that strips away the inessential and forces you to grow. Let's face it, no one remembers the person who stayed comfortable. No one writes books about the guy who stayed where it was safe. We remember the ones who dared, the ones who said, burn the ships, the ones who said, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'll find out. The ones who knew that rockets don't get to Mars by staying in the hangar. So I go back to the quote. And I remind myself this life isn't about documenting what others do or consuming their pictures or videos or behaviors. It's about writing your own story. One risk at a time, one act of courage at a time. And yes, risk is uncomfortable. Absolutely, it's uncertain. But without it, there's no adventure. Without it, there is no change. Like I said, every single time I look back at my journey, every breakthrough came from stepping out of what was safe, from leaping before I was ready, from risking failure for the chance to build something extraordinary. And that is what I want to leave you with today. The next time life gives you the choice between safety and risk or watching and daring, bet on yourself. Take that leap, burn the ships. Because the greatest tragedy isn't failure. It's never finding out who you could have become had you only been willing to risk it all. Life is about duality. It's about being grateful for the road behind you, but also excited and hungry for what's ahead. That balance is where growth lives. It's why we created AGNS. Always grateful, never satisfied. More than just an apparel company, it's a reminder that there's always another hill to climb. And if you go to agns.lifestyle and you sign up for the email list, you'll get daily inspiration right to your inbox, latest updates on all the new merch drops, as well as a 20% off discount code. Hope to see you there. You know, one of the hardest things to do is to walk away from a situation that's just okay. That's fine, it's doable, livable. There's an idea that the enemy of great isn't its inverse. The enemy of great is not average or insignificant or, throw in any similar word. No, the enemy of great is good. Why? Because it's incredibly easy to rationalize good. It's incredibly easy to sit back and tell yourself, hey, things aren't currently broken, so why touch them? Leave it alone. That's why it's a dangerous place to be. Comfort doesn't, on its own, initiate action or evolution. There has to be some sort of stressor to ignite the flame. And I'll get a response, every now and then, truly in good faith, asking, well, what's wrong with average? Why can't I just be? Not everyone can be LeBron James or Adele or Denzel Washington. Eddie, this convo sends people down a path of false hope. Well, hear me out. Because I'm certainly not saying everyone can be LeBron James. But they can most definitely be LeBron James in their own world. And instead are settling for some sort of bench role. I'm not saying if you're not a movie star making $20 million a film, you've lost. I'm merely pointing out that perhaps you haven't even found the courage to star in your own movie, the one that is your life. And I can't speak for every human being on the planet here, but I most certainly can speak for myself. The easiest thing for me, the temptation I always find myself grappling with, is the temptation to stay where I am. To accept things as they are, pass change off as something that's just a little bit out of my control. That's what my lizard brain always seems to want. It's really nice to not have to feel the burden of knowing I can change things around me. Right? That prospect of creating my own friction, my own chaos, so that I can, in a sense, tame it and elevate myself. That can be overwhelming. That's stressful. But you know what it is at the end of the day? It's thrilling. It's meaningful. And it may have taken me years to understand, but I'd trade a safe life for a meaningful one any day. It was my coming to understand that statistically, we should not be here. The odds are so small that you're alive listening to this, that the word improbability doesn't do it justice. It's a miracle in every sense of the word. And so, what do we do about that? How do you explain a feeling? How do you explain the cost of not going, of fewer sunrises, less laughter, untapped creativity, unwalked paths, journeys never started? You can't. Which is why you have to go. Good is not detrimental because it's insufficient. It's detrimental because it gives you just enough to make stepping out into the world feel illogical. It's a warm blanket keeping you comfortable enough to forfeit that feeling you truly crave. And I hope it's clear, my take in this is not that we aren't enough. It's that we have to be reminded that our biological compass points towards survival. And survival is a game of stagnation. Our souls, on the other hand, they need to run. To seek out the magnificence of life. And the more times we can be tapped on the shoulder and reminded of this, the better. See, I don't dream of new horizons because I'm ungrateful. I've learned to chase them down because I'm so grateful that I refuse to forfeit the gift. To leave my curiosity packaged and confined, I want to bask in life's abundance before my time here is up. And that's just it. That's the whole point. The friction between the knowing and the doing. Making that happen, physically bringing yourself there. It's not an easy thing. Certainly not as easy as putting your feet up and rationalizing the status quo. It's why I listen to voices that inspire me, read stories that teach me, I talk to people who lift me up. Going is harder than staying. But meaning resides in the going. So no, it's not about being LeBron James. It's about getting off the bench and at least shooting a shot. Whatever a shot means to you, wherever you are. Because if you don't, you'll never experience the thrill of having made one, of having felt that success. It's not about what you're doing, it's about what you're leaving on the table. Is average terrible? I don't know. Is a Ferrari never taken out of its garage terrible? Not really, it's still a Ferrari, but it won't experience the very thing that Ferrari was designed to experience. Again, how do you quantify that? You can't. Not until you go. So here's the stepping out of whatever the present definition of normalcy is in your world. Maybe not frantically changing the world around you, but certainly questioning the good, questioning yourself, questioning the road you're on. Has the routine overshadowed the reason you put the routine into place? Has the way things are come to outweigh the way you'd like them to be? Has good become a distraction, misdirecting you away from both life's brilliance and your own? Why is this battle you versus you? With all the complexity, all the obstacles out there, why are you your greatest opponent? Well, to put it simply, because all those obstacles and all that complexity still can't tell you no. They can't say enough is enough. They can't look back at you and say, let's just settle for what we have now. No, only you can do that. The world may create the landscape. It may construct the terrain and those obstacles. But you are the sole decider on where along the way you stop. You decide how far you want to go and how much you are willing to endure. When it comes to your advancement or limitation, you are in the driver's seat. I just picked up a copy of Will Smith's recent book, and one of the ideas that stood out to me was resilience. And this part in the book, it's actually kind of uncomfortable to get through, but incredibly powerful. He's talking about his childhood and the polarity of his father's personality. A man who would do anything to provide for his family. He took pride in that and saw it as his primary responsibility, but simultaneously was their greatest source of pain. And he mentions his father, hitting his mother from time to time. In one particular example, struck his mother in the face so hard that it knocked her on the floor. And as she stood back up, she said something along the lines of, "You can hit me, but you can't hurt me. And that was the first time Will understood as a child the difference between what the outside world inflicts upon us and how we choose to react to that occurrence. That understanding is power. It's why you are the author of your story. In the sense that every single thing dropped at your feet, every situation, every occurrence, they come with an implicit question attached, a question that you and only you are responsible for answering. The question is, what does this mean? And how you respond to that question determines whether you go left or right at that metaphorical fork in the road. Does the occurrence detract from your ambitions, or is it a multiplier? Does it confirm your doubts and insecurities, or is it your reason to rise to the occasion? An opportunity to stretch, to evolve. That's a gift. That's an invite. Not some sort of divine punishment. But the challenge is removing the layers until you arrive at the value. And it's hard. But you get there by saying yes. You get there by choosing to see the value. And here's a quick example. My favorite thing about athletics, which was, for me, a ton of running. Now I throw more interval training in there, but the same concepts apply. It's a chance to remind myself that I don't negotiate with my weakness. I don't give myself an opportunity to rationalize with the voice that wants me to quit. That question, that fork in the road, I answered it. I charted its course before the workout started, knowing this is going to be uncomfortable at times, but it's where I need to go. There will be no more thinking from here on out. And so today's workout, for example, switching deadlifts, burpees, to squats, to core, you don't think. You see the next requirement, the next task, and you simply say yes. You don't need your mind for this. In fact, you go before your mind even knows where it's going, because that dotted line has already been signed. And that was the breakthrough for me. When you separate what you have to do with the hurt associated with doing that thing, you free yourself. After all, what's there to hold you back if you can't talk yourself out of doing things? See, we tend to think our greatest adversity is the pain, or the confusion, or the unknown. But it's like, no, those are the byproducts of doing anything of significance. The adversary is the voice that begs you to slow down because of those things. And if you can figure out in your own life how to create space between the two, how to separate the task and the discomfort often brought about by the task, there's nothing that will ever be able to slow you down. And look, I'm not saying that you walk around without ever utilizing the power of that brilliant mind you possess. One's ability to think is everything. But what I am saying is there is a time to shut it off. There is a time in which, to avoid overthinking, we simplify. Action, reaction. One more mile, okay, end of story. 1 minute of jump squats next, roger that, period. It's taking the emotion out of the process, refusing to leave the door cracked for the inner dialogue that says, hey, maybe you don't do this. Maybe you slow down. Are you sure you can handle what's next? No, all of that is tuned out. It's assignment, go. Next, go. Next, go. You know this is the right thing. You did your thinking before grabbing the sword, shield, and stepping into the arena. Now guess what? It's instinct. It's doing what has to be done. And what has to be done hurts. And look, you didn't have to accept that. You didn't have to step in. You could have stayed home, but somewhere along the way, you looked in the mirror and said, The difficult path is the one with the value. And now here you are, face to face with hungry lions, clashing swords with your adversaries. There's no turning back now. Now is when you parse out pain from the objective. The pain is now part of the audience. It's not with you or in you, it's watching from above as you do what you came here to do. So yes, those swords clash, but the eyes remain focused on what's ahead. And yes, those lions roar, but that's background noise. When you simplify your world into objective and action, objective action, objective action, there is time for nothing but forward progress. And sometimes that is all that is required of us. In the face of adversity, in the face of pain, self-doubt, in the face of discomfort, can you break your world down into nothing but one single step forward? One more set, one more rep, one more session, one more attempt, just one more. No rocket science, no negotiation, there's nothing to figure out here. It's walking the path before you. It's the discipline to carry on. It's one more swing of the axe. Audience or no audience, lions or no lions, you are bound to the universe at your feet. And that simplified concentration is why you will succeed.